So for today's player profile, we're doing Draymond Green, the anchor of the Warriors defense, veteran for over 10 plus years, obviously drafted, heart and soul of the team. A guy that, is a winning player, has been since his days in college. So let's get right into his stats. 73 games played last season, so a very healthy year for Draymond. Coming off the season where he had, that aggravated disc in his back that kept him out half the year. 8.5 points, about 7 or so rebounds, 7 assists on 53 from the field, 31 from 3, 71 at the line. So very efficient season overall and very good production too. Given him being in a contract year in his early 30s. And traditionally he shoots around, the mid to high 40s from the field. But the last 2 seasons, I've noticed that his percentages and his efficiencies really taken a jump in the low 50s, which has been a pleasant surprise. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more specifically a little later. And then in the playoffs, 12 games played, 31 minutes per game. Obviously, the one game he got suspended. About 9.5 points, a touch under 7 rebounds, and a touch under 7 assists. A steal and a half and a block, so that's 2.5 stocks total. On 46 from the field, 25 from 3, 73 from the line. So obviously the efficiency dropped a little bit, but his production remained around the same, and he was incredible against guys like Sabonis in the post. Really did a good job on Anthony Davis at times. So his defense didn't really drop off too much, and his matchup difficulty was definitely elevated on a bigger stage. All right, I'm gonna get into just the biggest strength of his and the biggest the one thing that he hangs his hat on the most, which is that he's an elite defensive anchor. Even being in the league with as much miles and as many as many minutes as he's logged for his career, he's still an elite rim protector. Last season, in under 6 feet situations, he's deterred shots by minus 12 differential percentage, which basically means his defensive field goal percentage was 12% better than the expected of the players he was guarding. So he's one of the best rim protectors in the NBA even today. And then his man-to-man defense remains great. His awareness, his positioning, anticipation. Even though there's been some slippage over the last few years, just due to age, his discipline and the ability to stick to the defensive principles he's always carried with him has remained quite stable. And so he understands how to put himself in advantageous situations when he's guarding particular players. He studies matchups and tendencies so that it gives him an edge on the court. Charlie, I was going to ask you, do you want to just speak on the rim protection ability overall? Is there anything that you've seen that really makes him a good rim protector overall, for his entire career?
I think just being able to the rule of verticality, I think he's the best ever to do it at his size and the way he can stop anyone at any height just from rule of verticality alone. I've never seen it before. Did that well done. People probably don't put him up there in their list because he doesn't get that many blocks. But if you really look at it and the way he stops people just vertically, without fouling, just going straight up every time, and I think he's easily the best one of the best in the league, easy.
That's a
You know
great
what
point.
he's the best at, Charlie? It's not. It's not really the verticality necessarily. Well, it is the verticality, but he has this way of not fouling where he'll do because his arms are so long. So I think he has a 7'3" wingspan or something like that.
I think he's listed around 7'1" or so, but yeah, it's definitely.
Yes. So he has a 7'2", 7'3", something ridiculous for a guy that is 6'6". And what he does, and I really started to notice this around 2017, 2018, is when he does that thing where somebody's driving to the rim and he's going to contest the shot, and instead of even going straight up, he he goes up and he falls back basically, right? So
Yes, yeah.
it's almost like the player is falling into him, and he avoids so many fouls doing that, and he is the absolute best. I don't see anyone in the league doing that. So
But
like
I
with
would say that he's almost added his own twist or his own wrinkle to like that verticality rule, right? Because most players
yeah.
just go straight up, and because he's undersized, like he may have a tendency to like his he may just fall to the ground a little bit quicker, or because his arms are so long, he may tend to foul. But in his case, he, like you said, he kind of avoids that contact in the air, and that's almost like an added wrinkle to like the verticality concept, because now you're basically going vertical while also avoiding any mishaps from a just discipline and textbook standpoint.
And I think it's just came with age as well. Because I think back in his younger days, like 2015 to like 18, he could really just get up there and just stuff a shot. But now, like, his legs aren't the same, knees aren't the same. He's just understanding that of his body that he just has to do that now, like, to like survive 82 games. Like, he can't just jump up for a block every time. It's just all miles on his body. So I think he's understood that now as he's getting older.
100%. And I was looking through these percentages, and a 12% differential is among the best of the best. I mean, you look at guys like Jaren Jackson, even Anthony Davis. Like, it's among those types of rim protectors, and that's why I didn't even say shot blocker, right? Because shot blocking is a reflector of rim protection, but it's not necessarily an indication of rim protection from the standpoint of you can still be a rim protector without blocking shots, right? And that you made a good distinction there where even though he's not averaging, 2.5 blocks a game like some traditional shot blockers or rim protectors do, like Rudy Gobert or whoever, his rim deterrence and his ability to just protect the basket is among the elite, and it has been for over a decade. I mean, dating Pat since what? The mid 2010s. I mean, he's been doing this for a long time against some of the most elite matchups. So absolutely 100%. And again, this stat was within 6 feet. So that also kind of includes the floater range as well. That's not just at the basket in particular. That's also, at the at that kind of the what do you call it, the semicircle, like kind of like a restricted area. So that's kind of within that floater area where you can kind of get a contest up and try to deter multiple varieties of shots. And then I also mentioned as his strengths, on-ball passing in the short roll, within the motion offense, and in transition. In the short roll, we know him and Steph have as good a chemistry as any two-man, guard forward or guard center do when he plays small ball. And his ability to just pass out of the short roll, make the plays, whether finding guys in the dunker spot through a lob like Andre Iguodala in the past, or Andrew Wiggins we've seen, or just kicking out to shooters like Kevin Durant or Klay Thompson. Draymond's quick, snappy decision making, the ability to just take advantage of the advantages Steph creates when teams decide to blitz or trap him in the pick and roll. He's probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, short roll passer in NBA history. Just given the variety of ways he's able to just pick apart a rotating defense. Do you want to add to that? Anybody? I mean, this is open forum. Shadow, Urkel, anyone?
We underrate how the things that he does is like that short roll passing, the instantaneous decisions that you have to make. Uh, he makes it look automated, right? Like, so again, he's not a dude that you can just give the ball to and say go and get a bucket, right? But I think what the biggest underrated thing for him is like when he catches the ball and he has to make a decision, how quick and how snappy and how automated the decisions are. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that is the biggest underrated part about his game. You know what I'm saying? And it's like people just look at it and they're like, "Oh, anyone can do that." If anyone could do that, they would do it. I don't think it's as simple as people say. So
100%.
that part of his game, I think is highly underrated. Highly
Absolutely.
underrated.
Go ahead. Was someone going to add anything? Okay. And also, I was going to say, his passing in the motion offense overall just like being able to find guys, with kind of like how Clay said, was with adding CP3, he's going to find it on the seams, really pass it in that shooting pocket. Draymond is adept, next to some of the greatest ever, at really pinpointing and telegraphing those passes at the spots they need to be, right on the seams, right in that shooter pocket, so they can get those shots off with ease because you only have a sliver of daylight to really get them off. So Draymond's really developed and refined that ability to just find, Steph or Clay, whether it be in the two-man game or off of, weak side or secondary actions off the ball. He's just phenomenal at just finding guys in the motion offense, and even cutters. We've seen him find, guys like GP2, Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Durant, all those years ago, and even Steph as well, in the split action. So Draymond's ability in the motion offense to be a connective passer is one of his greatest strengths, no doubt. And then also, I said in transition, pushing the ball. We've seen in the playoffs when he, grabbing a rebound, pushing the pace, and being effective, whether it be driving kick or a dump off down low, just really putting pressure on the recovering defense, so they have to react. And his ability to just find guys and make quick decisions in transition is something that's unique for a big. And then this is the big thing. His improved touch around the basket. And this is something that I've noticed the last couple of years. So in 22, I thought it might have been a little bit of an anomaly. Come to find out last season, in more games played, on greater volume, he actually shot the ball comparably, even better. So the last 2 seasons, Draymond has shot 71% from 0 to 3 feet. So that's a quite impressive mark. And then 57% from 3 to 10 feet. And that's an even more impressive mark when you consider the fact that that's the floater range, right? So that's the area where teams are going to give you that shot at the nail, that little pocket pass floater that Steph finds him for. And his ability to just really work on that area of his game so he can be a better finisher in those little pockets in the pick and roll, or just in advantageous situations to be a more efficient scorer in that sense. We've seen it reflect in certain matchups, right? Like, he's really done a good job punishing teams like the Nuggets, the Mavericks, and even I would say the Celtics towards the latter half of that final series. He found his rhythm as a scorer, and in that floater range, in the paint, his finishing and his touch around the basket has really improved, and it's reflected in his overall percentages on the field overall as well. And then the last thing, or before the last thing, I said he's a really good rebounder, and that's reflected in his playoff career. His playoff career, 8.9 rebounds per game. That's really high-level rebounding overall, just being able to crash the boards, put a body on his man, box out consistently, be active, die for loose balls, recover misses. His ability to just rebound at a high level, particularly in the playoffs, is something that's been a common theme throughout his career. And he came into the NBA as a really high-level rebounder, and it has tailed off a little bit over the course of his career, but he's still a very good rebounder even today. And like I said, in the playoffs, he's one of the better rebounders you'll find. And then the last thing on this slide, as I said, he's a playoff riser. And this is a huge deal, right? All of these things are important, but this might be one of the most important things, is that in the playoffs, he elevates his level of play. So in the playoffs, he averages for his career about 3 more points per game, 2 more rebounds per game, and about half an assist more per game. He averages a combined steals and blocks, 0.5 more steals and blocks per game in the playoffs, which is incredibly impressive given his matchup difficulty becoming more difficult, right? Like, he's facing more difficult matchups. He's playing against tougher competition. He's having to cover for, or play against teams that are just better because they advance. And as you advance, you play more difficult competition. So even with that matchup difficulty increase, he still thrived as a defender. And then also, his efficiency goes up by almost 1 true shooting percentage, 0.7. And you got to think about how the schemes key in on him, right? In the playoffs, teams are really focusing in on your strengths and trying to cut off what you do well. And the fact that he's even more efficient in the playoffs speaks volumes to his playoff rising nature that he brings. Charlie, do you want to add anything to anything that I've said, like the passing or the touch around the basket? I know you could probably speak to him working on certain things over the years, and I feel like that floater range is one of them.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is rebounding. Like I get on him all the time. Like my number one pet peeve when he does it is I don't know if you guys notice it, but in the regular season a lot he'll tap rebounds like cheap. Like he won't grab a rebound. He'll just tap it to
Like
someone
tip outs, yeah, yeah.
on like open defensive rebounds. I'm like, why aren't you just grabbing that and going? Like obviously I don't know like how he's feeling like body, but I always like message him. I'm like, why don't you just grab that and just push the base like every time? He's like, well, like I've got to pace myself. Like I can't, put my body doing that every game for every 82 games. But I'm like, man, if you could do that like twice a quarter, just grab it and go. He does it a lot more in the playoffs because obviously like you need every possession, like everything counts more. But like regular season wise, rebounding wise, like he could average easily 10 rebounds a game easily. But he's like too lenient. Like he's like almost the opposite of Westbrook. Like he just lets like anyone get it. Just he doesn't really care as long as they get the ball.
Wow,
Um,
that's a really
yeah,
that's a really good analogy.
it's
I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
it's and if you notice, every single good Draymond game, it'll be double digit rebounding every time. You can't point to a bad Draymond game and he doesn't have double digit rebounding. I'm like, it's got to be like you got to match the dots here. Like you get it. Like every time you get a high rebounding game, it's gonna be a good game for you. And obviously, like I'm like obviously he knows more. Like I don't know, I'm just watching from the sidelines, but like I'm just like if you just really like lock in a rebound, I guarantee it's gonna be a good game for you. But yeah, that's the biggest thing I take away.
absolutely. And then I know you've obviously Draymond's you and him have talked over the years. Has he like made that? Because I just can't get over the fact that he's improved so much, and in that as a finisher, but also in that floater range. Like he's definitely that's got to be something that we've seen him work on with those workout videos. But has he ever voiced that? Like, yeah, I'm gonna be a better finisher around the basket.
Um, I think I think he knows he can do it. It's just a mental hurdle. Like it's just a block. So like, well, I think what was that game two against Sacramento? He just was hesitating. He was just leaving them short every time. Like every floater was
Mm,
short.
yeah.
And then he came back on the road and he had like 21 points of the same shots, but he the mental hurdle was gone. And then he scored 21 and like obviously they won. And I'm just like that's like it's just all mental. Like he knows he can do it. Like it's just like certain plays in the game, like certain opponents, it'll make him think twice. But if he's not thinking twice, it's he knows he's got it in his like bag. Like he knows it's a good shot. But yeah, it's just getting over that mental hurdle. I think for him.
And the last thing I kind of listed as a playoff riser, like, do you want to just speak on, I guess, maybe his mental shift and, like, just in the playoffs, does he, like, lock in on certain things more? Because he's clearly, like, I mean, there wasn't one part of the game that I could look at and say, well, that area he's actually gets worse in. Maybe in turnovers, actually, because I didn't look at that. But outside of that, like, everything goes up points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, and efficiency. I mean, like, what do you think about like just him being a better player as the stage gets brighter?
Yeah. I mean the playoffs, like you can kind of so his style of basketball is a lot more like effective in playoffs. I think like regular season wise, like anything can happen. Like it's so random, but like playoffs is like really like his style sort of play. Like everything, like every possession counts. Like diving loose balls, like momentum swings. Like that's all his game. So I think just like it's like really locking onto an assignment and like just shutting it down. There's a lot of like I don't really know anyone that's really like cooked like him in a playoffs, like one on one. Obviously they've had success, but like yeah, it's been like that his whole career, like just completely locked into a playoff series and just like, you know, um just dominating really.
100%. No, I agree, and the eye test matches that as
Good.
well.
Yeah.
He's been more intentional with how he approaches the playoffs. Absolutely. And then so I have another entire slides of strengths. So I'm just gonna keep listing them off. So just more specific stuff. So multi-positional. We all know that he can play multiple positions, particularly the power forward and the center spot. His switchability still remains, right? He's able to guard 1 through 5, can guard, point guards, shooting guards, small forward, power forward, center. Whether he switched onto them or whether that's his matchup, right? We've seen him guard Jaylen Brown in the NBA Finals, and then we've seen him guard Anthony Davis in the conference semifinals. We've also seen him guard De'Aaron Fox for stretches, or even close out on Marcus Smart off a weak side rotation. Like, his ability just to switch onto multiple different types of players with different skill sets and different abilities is uncanny. It's not normal. It's rare in the NBA, right? And that's why he is who he is. Just that special ability to guard and switch 1 through 5. And then that kind of reflects in his ability to close games, right? Closing lineups, we play small ball with Draymond at the 5, traditionally. He can play center. I would say, a few years ago, I would say against any matchup, but I'll say just, given his age and given kind of how the game has changed from a perimeter standpoint, I would say against most matchups he can play center against, because we saw against a team like, even Memphis or Boston, where there were times that he just struggled offensively, or there was a difficult matchup. And less so defensively, but more so just teams kind of taking advantage of his, whether it be mental hurdle or inability to just hit perimeter shots at a efficient clip. I just think his ability to close games is definitely still there, but it's just less so than it was all those years ago due to just, regression overall and offensive limitations. But speaking on his defense, his versatility is, again, 99th percentile. As a help defender, he still remains one of the best defenders in space. He's super effective in those areas when guards are driving downhill, getting to the paint, trying to penetrate the defense. His ability to shade and shadow those areas so that he can deter them from driving strong and finishing at the basket, and forcing them to make a decision whether to hesitate for a shot or to pass for a lob or a dump off to the big man. And his ability to break up those plays consistently, right? The cat and mouse game, right? That ability is probably among the best. The only players I could think of who do it comparably are Jaren Jackson and Anthony Davis. And
Yeah.
Draymond does it at a much shorter height. Yeah, he's much shorter than those guys, and he weighs less. So, or at least comparable weight, but the height thing is a big deal because his recovery, that margin for error to recover on plays like that is much thinner. So he has to be really perfect and way more sharp with his positioning, his movements, and his decisions, as well as he's a great post defender. We saw this against Nikola Jokic in 2021, where he was just pushing Jokic off his spots, being really physical, using his frame and his size to just, deter Jokic from getting to his spots where he's effective at in the post as a scorer or as a passer. And he really shut Jokic down the first 2 games of that series. And as a post defender, we've seen him do it against Anthony Davis, guys like, LeBron 5-6 years ago in the finals. So Draymond's ability to guard fives who live in that area, and Joel Embiid, right? He's just incredible as a post defender as well, elite at that.
Good point, Dre.
And then, yeah, thanks. And then the last thing that I'm gonna add is his combination. I know we don't view Draymond as like an athlete or like a traditional athlete because he's a little bit, slower, and he doesn't move necessarily as nimble as players his size do, right? He's 6'6", but he kind of is the size of like a shooting guard or small forward, but he plays really high level front court spots at the power forward and center. But I will say his combination of size, strength, and agility is what makes him so great at the power forward and center spot, right? His low center of gravity, being able to stay to the ground and absorb those hits, absorb that punishment over the course of a game or of a series, right? And just whether it be guarding in the post or having to switch on multiple defenders, his low center of gravity gives him a major advantage against those matchups. And then, like we mentioned earlier, his 7'1", 7'2" wingspan, where he's able to use his length, backpedaling, or contesting a shot on a closeout, or guarding man-to-man and just putting a hand up. Really great job at leveraging his athletic tools and traits to put himself in advantageous positions when guarding different types of matchups, right? Because he has a diverse set of matchups that's presented to him on a game-to-game or series-to-series basis, right? He's not always going to be guarding the same players. There were times, remember against Boston, he was guarding Al Horford for the first few games of that series. Then he switched on to Jaylen Brown towards the end, and that was super effective, right? So his ability to just be versatile with a multitude of matchups and skill sets is incredible in that sense. Does anyone want to add to anything, whether it be you know any of these points?
Um,
No.
Dre, I could chime in, because obviously I know some things and whatnot. Um, One thing that people don't bring up as far as Draymond Green is concerned, um, there's an old adage in basketball that says the coach on the floor, and that's usually designated to like point guards, and people would think of that as a person who's more or less like a floor general. But the coach on the floor is actually someone who interacts with the coaching staff, structures the schemes, the plays, and different things. And Draymond Green is that. A lot of people don't know that. I'll give you a little tidbit. Mike Brown and him have this saying when they were together. It was like, "Turn on the fucking Jets," right? And "turn on the fucking Jets" is basically those schemes and those blitzes when they would blitz a player. And remember, like in like 2017, where like Clay and Draymond would run and catch someone in the corner, and then Draymond would shadow him, or Iggy would shadow him, and they would turn over the ball. They would more or less do that in the third quarter. So that's where you got those third quarter runs. The reason why the Warriors haven't looked like the Warriors is because in the third quarter their defense wasn't up to that standard. That's one. Two, confidence. Draymond Green is one of the most confident players in the league. So I'm going to give you a two-part fold. Confidence meaning that for a guy who's 6'5", a guy who wasn't really drafted, a guy who was looked over, he has that confidence to know that what I do, I'm the best at. And what I mean by that is a lot of people don't realize that the defensive scheme that the Golden State Warriors run is Draymond. Like literally, Draymond Green invented the defensive scheme. He is the defense. Him and Mike Brown and Rod Adams formulated that and worked on it. That's why people say like, "Yo, why is Draymond so good?" He's so good because he's running his scheme that he damn near invented. So he's gonna look like that when to the post entries, all that stuff. Um, Attacking bigger guards, watching the rhythm of their dribbles, like and having the adage of help the helper. Draymond Green instituted that with Ron Adams and Mike Brown, and Mike Brown was a super voice and allowing Kerr to allow Draymond Green to have input and be himself and do those type of things. So that's why Draymond Green looks so good because it's his shit. It's like
Oh, you cut out there, Big
DJing
Shaq.
at DJing at a party. Like why the all the records? So because it's his shit. He knows his city. He knows his team. So it's like when someone comes to Toronto and the Toronto DJ is playing and everyone's looking. So I've never heard this music before, but why the fuck is everyone jumping up and down and going crazy? Because the Toronto DJ knows the Toronto artist and knows the Toronto scene and knows the Toronto crowd, and they know what they're gonna like. And that's what Draymond Green, he leans into the strengths of the guys on his team, and he leans into it. Also, GP2, he spoke up like getting into the trade deadline about bringing GP2 back. So Draymond Green does a lot of things that a lot of people don't speak on. And another thing, the last I'll probably bring up is like basketball IQ. Period. Like we talk about like Draymond Green 6'5", he's all that. I get it. Great. He's a fucking Einstein when it comes to basketball in general. He studies. He knows all the greats before him. He studied all the greats like the Dennis Rodmans, the Bruce Bowens, and he's watched all those guys. And he watches film. He probably in the film room more than anybody. So to give you guys context, like Draymond Green puts in a lot of work. Like I always see people on the timeline, go work on your jumper, go work on your shot. But Draymond Green is working on his basketball thing the most. Like he's mastering mastery. He knows he's the best defender, so he's mastering that. He doesn't need to work on his weaknesses. A lot of in tech or like business or Fortune 500 companies, they don't work on what they fucking can't do well. They work on what they do extremely well and heighten it, and that's why they are billion and trillion dollar companies. And Draymond Green has that same approach. He's closer to Apple than he is to fucking McDonald's. You understand what I'm saying? He's gonna do what he does best. Apple makes phones, bro. That's what he does. Draymond Green plays defense. So us looking for him to splash threes, us looking for him to do a mid-range floater, us looking him to back guys down in the paint. Fuck all that. He's the greatest defender of the generation. He works on that every single day, and people don't see that. That's all I gotta say.
No, I appreciate that. You listed off a lot of points there that were really good. Specifically, just his acumen, just understanding, like, studying matchups, studying tendencies, being a student of the game, understanding, like, the details, right? The game within the game, and that's something that's underrated and
Yeah,
that's
and if
under.
you ever get a chance to like ask anybody on the team, like Draymond Green knows the other people's plays. Like in the
Yes,
Dallas
yes,
series, like before the Dallas series, him and Wiggins were studying Luca's plays. That's why he could help. And he also coached Wiggins like up that that whole run. Like, you understand what I'm saying? He coached Wiggins up that whole run, and he showed him, like, look at Luca's tendencies, look where he likes to go. He also is the one that suggested and told Wiggins and put it in his head that, bro, fucking Jaylen Brown can't go left, dog. Like, anytime you get him, just send that man left. You don't really got to do too much. Use your length and send that man left. And then, Wiggins is like, okay, OG, I got you. And he said the same thing about Tatum. Tatum likes to over dribble and over compensate in that step back. If you could force him out of rhythm on that side step and that step back and that turnaround Kobe move he does, and you time it, you could turn him over and you can get him out of rhythm, and you can also bump him off his spots. And that's what helped make Andrew Wiggins look so great because like I always say, guys, like some people have the juice, but juice I'm from the trenches in the hood. Juice only lasts a day or two in the fridge. Sauce can last a whole year. Sometimes I had the mustard in the cupboard a whole year. The barbecue sauce the whole year. The ketchup the whole year. But fucking Kool-Aid lasts one day. And a lot of NBA players that look good and are great defenders like a Marcus Smart and all these other guys, they have the juice. Draymond Green has the sauce. That's why year in, year out, he lasts the test of time because he's willing to do things that other people won't do, and he mastering what he mastered. He focuses on. He's like mustard, bro. You put mustard on ketchup. You put mustard and ketchup on a hot dog or a hamburger, and those are condiments. You ain't focusing on putting it on rice and Rice Krispies and Cheerios. No, he's a special player, generational to what he does. We need to focus on that and stop harping and poking at all the shit that he doesn't do. And as a guy who hears from multiple guys on the team and multiple guys over the years, and obviously why even Rich took him on as a client and all those things, like his brain, bro, he's a savant. He's probably top five brain fucking that studies the game, is a nerd when it comes to basketball. He's top five easily, and I'm not talking about fucking right now. I'm talking about like in the last probably 40 years.
absolutely, 100%. Just continuing with his overall strengths, he's a great system fit. Obviously, with the motion offense we like to run, the sets, the actions, the play calls, right? Understanding how to how to free guys up, whether it be as a screener or a passer, right? So he makes Steph's job way easier because Steph doesn't have to come up every possession and create for others, whether it be mostly on the ball, right? Because that is a taxing task, right? It's tough. It takes a toll on you if every possession you have to be on the ball and create for your teammates. Draymond's ability to make plays, whether it be as a screener, screen assist, or passing, on the ball, just making those reads, it makes Steph's job overall more dynamic, right? It allows Steph to play on and off the ball, and it also makes Steph's job overall easier because now the responsibility is not as much on his shoulders to carry the offense consistently on the ball in particular, right? Even though Steph is always going to be moving off the ball and having that impact on the offense one way or another, he doesn't have to play a particular style. He can kind of alternate between styles, and then Draymond provides him with that ability and dynamic because he's so great at, like I said, screening, passing, understanding the system, and thriving in those situations. And then the last thing I noted was his vocal leadership, right? And that's been something that has been a little bit choppy and dicey over the last couple seasons, but I still believe it as a strength. It's a strength of his because at the end of the day, it doesn't go away. His ability to put guys in the right spots, direct his teammates, be communicative on the court, like Shadow said, be vocal, call out the opposing team's plays, know what sets you're running, putting guys in position to succeed, providing advice or taking guys under his wing and expanding their games or expanding their views of the game. These little details, as a leader, are something that add up. And
Yeah.
he's more so vocal than Steph is, right? He commands the room because
Yeah.
he's gonna wear his emotions on his sleeve, and he's gonna be he's gonna make his presence felt. Uh, Charlie, do you
Amen,
have
bro.
anything? Yeah, Charlie, you have anything to add to that overall, or just because this is the last slide of strengths? So, do you have any other strengths you think I missed, or do you have anything to add overall?
I think his ability. I think he missed. I don't know if it goes on to post defense, but just being able to take charges, just using his body. I think you saw it a lot in the playoffs this year. Even like grifting, like charging off ball. If someone runs into him, he'll flop, like take the charge. I think he led the league in charges in the playoffs or something ridiculous. He had like 8, I think. Um, he knows when people are going to lower that shoulder, especially with Sabonis in that series. He will just take it a charge every time, which I mean it's insane. He does that to his body like damn near every time. But um, yeah, I think his ability to absorb contact, just like know when people are going to make their move and just take the charge every time, like easily the best in the league, I think.
100%. That speaks to his anticipation, right? And that goes back to like studying your matchups, knowing their tendencies. And if you know Sabonis is a guy who likes to do that little bump off with his right shoulder when he's going left for that little pop shot off the glass, then Draymond puts his chest in towards his shoulder so he can exaggerate that contact and draw those charges. So you're exactly right. His positioning is a result of his anticipation, and his anticipation is a result of him understanding who's in front of him, right? If you're not guarding Anthony Davis the same way you guard Sabonis, because AD is a guy that will put the ball on the floor a little bit more often. He's less of a DHO threat. He's more of a, mid-range, post-up threat from that standpoint in the floater area. So absolutely, like, it's a testament to his ability to anticipate and read plays consistently, and he gets them correctly more times than not. We've seen this dated back all the way to even the early or the mid 2010s, right? In the 2015 or 2016 finals, early in his finals career, we noticed that those uncanny anticipation chops of just, timing a block at the rim against LeBron multiple times, or guarding a guy like even Kawhi Leonard, right? When he was switched on to Kawhi in those finals. Siakam gave him some trouble at times because Siakam is just taller. He's 6'9", 6'10". Draymond's a little bit shorter, just smaller frame. Siakam's quite quick. But, like, even against Siakam, Draymond had his moments. And against Kawhi Leonard, when he was switched on to him, physical, absorbing the contact, getting those contests up. So, yeah, like understanding how to switch up his defensive approach based on the matchup in front of him is, again, because a lot of players remain the same, right? They're going to defend how they defend, or they're going to, even offensively approach the game how they do. But Draymond's adaptability is just underrated, and it's not spoken.
Dre.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm not echoing.
No,
Don't you feel like that Siakam thing was a bit overblown?
it was. If you look at the numbers, it's not what people say. It made it seem like he had his moments. Obviously, he had that shot that put Toronto up 3,
So,
and then
Dre, outside of the game one, and
Draymond had him on lock. Yeah,
a mistake where he made in game 6 where he kind of like he kind of cheated and it missed
he
and
gambled for
like
the steal. Right.
Brett, like outside of the game one and that gamble, I think he did a pretty good job on him.
And also Nick Nurse switched up their offensive schemes. Like none of the stuff that Siakam was doing in the playoffs that he was doing in the regular season. So Draymond was studying all the regular season
Oh, you cut out there, Shadow.
as positionally where he was positionally, and Nick Nurse kind of sprung it on him. That's why game one he was like out of sync. Like Siakam was just going at him, and they had that as a scheme to do that. And Draymond didn't took a game or so game and a half to figure it out. But once he did, he kind of like strapped up Siakam because Siakam didn't play very well after that.
No, you're exactly right. And before I get into the weaknesses and expectations, I'm going to try to pull up his 2019 um, his 2019 matchup numbers so we can just kind of revisit what he was doing in that year in the playoffs particularly. Okay, here we go. So let me see. Playoffs, defense, dashboard, per game. So Draymond's wow. So from less than 6 feet, he was a minus 13 differential. From less than 10 feet, a minus 10 differential. From overall at the 2-pointers -5. 3-pointers was basically a net neutral at minus -0.4, and then overall he was a -3 differential from field goal percentage versus defensive field goal percentage. So Draymond was a clear positive defensively and elite rim protector, net neutral on the perimeter, but in that inside of the arc, he was a handful for teams. And so that's where Siakam mostly lived, was in that mid-range floater, at the basket area. And so Draymond had that on lock for those playoffs. All right. Now we're going to get into the weaknesses. This is where I know a lot of people want to, they want to pile on or whatever, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, like, every player that I've listed in these player profiles has strengths, and they also have weaknesses, right? It kind of applies to every player. So this is detailed, by the way. I really put a lot of thought into this. I didn't just, put this together and try to, throw something together. I really thought about what he needs to improve at and what he can improve at, and things that I feel like are correctable, right? Because there's certain things that, we want to point out, but then there's things that are actually correctable going into next season. So the first one I said is that, Shams just released his Christmas Day. Warriors at Nuggets Christmas Day. Warriors at Nuggets. Warriors at Nuggets Christmas Day.
Shit. Let's go, nigga. Let's go.
Warriors at Nuggets Christmas Day. Okay, so let me read this really quickly just so we have the full scope. So Celtics at Lakers, Mavericks at Suns, 76ers at Miami, Bucks at Knicks, and then Warriors at Nuggets. So that's a pretty good slate right there. I'm happy about that, by the way. I thought we were going to play the Kings or the Lakers, but we actually ended up playing Denver. So that's
I like that.
Absolutely. No, I like it too. We're playing the defending champs on Christmas. I'll take that. And on the road.
Oh shit! On the road? Damn.
On the road.
Yeah,
Of
we're
course.
the last game on Christmas. I think it's because the Niners.
It's a rule.
are
It's a
that day,
rule.
so.
The champions always play at home on Christmas.
And also opening night. But anyways, getting back to the weaknesses, the first thing I listed was that he's a non-spacer in the front court, right? And that's something that I think the entire fan base has been complaining about ever since 2016, right? I mean, his shooting and his ability to be a threat, even in the slightest, in the especially on the perimeter, right? So teams tend to sag off of him on the perimeter, cheat off of him, so that they can kind of tilt their defense in advantageous ways, so as to overwhelm or throw multiple bodies at Steph or Clay, even off the ball. And so they don't respect Draymond's ability to convert shots on the perimeter consistently, so they sag off of him, and that hurts our spacing, that hurts our offense, and that's something that obviously. But again, you take the good with the bad, right? So even though he has his strengths and weaknesses, his strengths far outweigh these weaknesses because Steph is able to make them work, right? Steph is a big part of why, and Draymond's skill set as well as a passer. Their synergy allows them to kind of complement each other and kind of work out their deficiencies on either end. And then Draymond's ability just finishing below the rim. He's not a guy, obviously he's playing the power forward or center spot, and traditionally those positions finish above the rim, right? They finish above the basket, over the top of players. But Draymond at that position tends to finish below the rim, right? So it in turn allows his shot to be easily blocked or deterred by the defense, allows players and opposing front court teams to recover more easily because he not only is he undersized, but he finishes below the basket. So it's much easier to really affect those shots in the paint. And then his physical limitations, right? Obviously, he is undersized at center. And so even though that's an advantage of his because it provides him with some speed and low center of gravity, it also is a limitation of his because he struggles to guard, on a consistent basis, some of the taller players, because they'll get the best of him at times, right? We've seen Jokic go off in the playoffs against Draymond for that reason, because it's just tough to guard a guy who's 7 feet when you're 6 inches shorter. But again, him and himself as a versatile post defender, someone that can not only go from the perimeter but in the post and then help, is something that's uncanny. And so you take this bad with the good, because at the end of the day, he gave Jokic some problems in the first 2 games as well. Even though Jokic, as a great player, right, an all-time great, he's gonna get free, he's gonna get loose, and so that's what happened. And then he also has had a loss of quickness and explosiveness over the years, I've noticed, right? He's not as sharp or as shifty, as agile as he was, 4 or 5 years ago. And that's something that obviously comes with age, right? As you get older, you just become less athletic. You become physically, you just regress. So that's kind of been a result, and you see this in his point of attack play, right? Point of attack, he's regressed a bit against quicker guards. There's times where he's on a switch and guards will kind of beat him off the bounce, or take advantage of his footwork, because he's just not as fast or as nimble as he once was. His foot speed isn't what it was in 2016 or 2017 when he won Defensive Player of the Year, but he's still fully capable of guarding point of attack in spots, in spurts. He's just not as consistently able to do it, especially against the quicker guards like De'Aaron Fox, or guys like who are shifty, like a Darius Garland, for example, who is just more slithery and slippery on the perimeter, right? He can just get by players. And then sometimes I've noticed he unnecessarily overhelps, and we can kind of expand on that, right? We've seen Draymond just feel the need to, put 1 or 2 feet in the paint and help off of a shooter, to the point where it just leaves open looks and creates holes in the defense. And that's something that's schematic, but it's also a weakness that's just a result of his physical limitations, because he needs to find a better balance of understanding when to stick onto a shooter, whether it be movement or spot up, and then also helping the helper defensively, just rotating and being that anchor in the paint. So that balance, I feel like, has been less achieved as the years have gone on, and that's
Dre,
also that's
Dre,
also
Dre.
not to cut you off, I think you need to refresh. Some people in the chat said they can't hear you.
okay. Yeah, I'll refresh.
Yeah, and just to expand on what Dre was talking about, I think I think Draymond Green, like he definitely has weaknesses, but I think sometimes he strengthens those weaknesses, like he works on them in the short term. Like I remember specifically in Game 4, I think he shot like 3 for 14 or something like that. He was missing a million like bunnies, and everybody on the timeline was complaining. And he kind of wore it on his face, and he kind of let it affect him. And I believe like the time in practices, if you looked, like when he was during practice, he was working on those short rolls and doing those things. And in Game 5, he was much better, and he focused on those things. So even when he has weaknesses, like especially in the playoffs, he'll turn them around. It's not like he'll do it for the whole entire series or anything
Do you
like
guys
that.
hear me now, by the way?
Yeah, I could hear you.
All right. Where did I leave off?
We were talking about the short rolls and different things like that.
What was the last thing I said? Do you remember?
Last bullet, Dre. Overplaying.
Overplaying.
Oh,
Motion
Yeah.
that
off.
was it? Oh, okay, so then, okay, that's fine. So, yeah, I just said he unnecessarily overhelps, and that's kind of a result of, just having 1 or 2 feet in the paint at times, helping off of shooters. There's times where he just doesn't, and that's a result of not only just regression physically, just getting older and feeling the need to kind of balance out the defense, because he may not feel his ability to
Bro,
recover.
we were brutal, Dre. We were brutal defensively, and he
100%, and
overhelped
that's a result of
because
personnel as well. That's a
Jordan
result.
That's
Poole left
exactly what I
them
was gonna say.
exposed.
Yep.
Jordan Poole left them exposed a lot. Klay
And by the
Thompson
way,
left them
Shadow, I
exposed
agree
a
with
lot.
that, right?
Yeah.
The overhelping thing is not only a result of Draymond's uh, own situation, it's also the fact that we had weak personnel out there and weak lineups out there at times that he had to overcompensate and overhelp for.
And
But
and
there have been,
and
yeah.
and, and you definitely have a point. This isn't something specifically for you, but what I tell everybody, that I speak to and I have conversations, you guys heard me a million times say it. When Clay goes 3 for 19 or 3 for 14, bro, the last thing we need to worry about is the second greatest shooter of all time. When Steph misses shots, the last thing we need to worry about is him shooting. And Draymond Green defensively always digress defensively. Bro, even Draymond Green's digress defensively. What is he now? The second best defender in the league? Like, so at the end of the day, like
Right, it's marginal. It's marginal.
it's so fucking marginal. Like we're nitpicking and being crazy at this point. You understand what I'm saying? And I'm
100%.
not saying
But
you
I
specifically.
do want to
I'm
acknowledge
not
though.
saying
I do
you
want to.
specifically, but it
Yeah.
becomes infectious where everybody feels the need to blame Draymond about defense.
They
And
pile
then
on.
it's like,
I
oh,
agree.
we took a digress. Our defense wasn't good, wasn't in the top five. Like, what the fuck?
Well, I will say this, Shadow. One thing, just something that I've noticed over the last handful of seasons is that he has struggled to achieve, or not struggled, but there has been a noticeable drop off in him achieving that balance of trusting himself to either help at the right time or having 1 or 2 feet in the paint so that he can, either rotate or help the helper or close out on the shooter. So there's times where
Dre,
it leaves
Dre,
holes in the defense.
you're 1,000,000% right. But the truth of the matter is, he lost the locker room and he couldn't communicate like he did. Draymond
100%.
Green plays the best defense when he's talking shit, screaming, yelling, help, 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 dig, 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 hedge, 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 peel, peel, peel. Like when he's
Right.
screaming and communicating, and who's he gonna talk to? He's talking to Jordan Poole when Jordan Poole's missing
So
rotation.
Shadow,
He's
you
gonna
say
scream at him.
this, right? Shadow, you say this, and that's a great point. Um, and since we have Charlie up here, let me ask Charlie this. Charlie, because this is something I seen you say on Twitter probably a handful of times during that time. Around when do you think that vocalization returned?
Oh, um, probably March, February.
Oh my
Like,
God. Jesus.
yeah. I remember when I was over there in October, I was talking to his like family and stuff, and they're like, "Nah, it's not going to be a good season." And I'm like, "We just started. What do you mean? We win a couple. Like this is when we first 4 games of the season. I think we won like 3, and they were telling me like, "No, it's not going to be good." Like they just already knew. And I'm like, "Okay, yeah." I didn't take it too serious. They're like, "No, trust. Like something's going on in there, and it's not going to be good." So we went through the season. I'm like, "Man, they're right." Like it's crazy that. Like they're like, nah, it's just off. Like they can just feel it was off, and obviously they know they get more intel than me, and they were like, nah, it's just that it's not going to work for a whole season. I mean, they tried, like they pulled it together sort of at the end, but it does, yeah. You could one like they said, we maxed out. That's what happened. We just maxed out.
Yeah, because that, bro, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of privy to what Jordan Poole said. You know what I'm saying? And you know, a lot of people know how I feel. I've caught a lot of heat saying that. You know, you talk shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's things that you say amongst men, and there's things that will get you punched. You know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate that the video got leaked, but that right there was probably the biggest detriment to the team all year long. You know what I'm saying? Like there were so many dominoes that fell as a result of that. And I saw when you said that, bro, and I pay attention to your tweets. You know what I'm saying? Because I know you're tapped in, right? So when you said that, I'm like, fuck. Well, we're gonna have a bad season, right? And but we're trying to hold it together in spaces and all of that. But bro, if Draymond can't talk, Draymond is the talker of the talkers. You know what I'm saying?
There's no defense if Draymond Green
There's
can't talk.
no defense, bro. Like,
50% of the defensive rotations is Draymond's mouth,
yeah,
yelling,
man.
yelling, and telling people where to go. You
But
see how
I
people used to cry about Draymond being traffic cop? That's what he does on defense, and the shit works.
What were you
I
gonna say,
think
Charles?
regardless if that incident happened or not, I still don't think like the team just wasn't good like
Yeah.
at all. It like we did have the people like Anthony Lamb played half the season, way too many minutes, and he was no like positive defensively. Like we just didn't have a good team. Like the incident is like obviously it was terrible, and like obviously no one wants that to happen. But like regardless, we just didn't have a good team to defend people. We were too small, way too small. We were playing like three guards. Um, I like DiVincenzo, but like obviously you need big bodies later in the season, and like we just didn't have a good team defensively. Like I know his voice needs to be heard. Like and it did get better as the season went on, but I just generally just don't think our team was that great.
Yeah,
Can I
Charlie,
ask?
and
Go ahead.
I will say this though: the prior year, I think we messed up with some stuff. There's a particular way that they should play, and there's a blueprint that they should follow. I think they went away from that blueprint, and then you hear Draymond say stuff like he was complimenting Otto and he was complimenting GB2, but he was trying to not like smash on the guys that were there, but by saying that he just smashed on them anyway. You know what I'm saying? But he was right. Like the team wasn't very good, and the fact that they just went away from the formula, it that's kind of what derailed it. You know what I'm saying? And the contract stuff is the contract stuff. We saw that he ultimately got paid. You know what I'm saying? And so here's another question I want to ask you because again, I pay attention to your timeline, and I saw the things that you were saying all year long. Right? How close do you think he was to leaving?
Definitely a possibility. Like it, it was,
All right. Let
it
me ask
wasn't
it
as
this way: was
crazy
there a
as people
point
thought.
in any point of the season where you're like, he's probably gone? Like, did you say that at any point?
Um, maybe at the start of the year, how everything was handled. Like
Yeah.
I thought the leaking of the video and stuff was my speculation. Like if a team doesn't want that to happen, like it doesn't happen. Like that does not happen for any other team in any sport ever. You think of every sport in the world, you think no one's fought before and any like videos been out in like this many years. Like that just doesn't happen. So I'm like, maybe that was like a plan, but I don't know. But yeah, that's the only time I think about it. But as the season went on, like we weren't like I wasn't really thinking of it really until like the start of the year.
Do you feel like he's at a point going into next season where that trust is regained, at least to the point where we can start fresh and be like a high level defense again and try to compete for a title?
Well,
No,
Jordan not here, so that's good.
I think I just
not
think
until he shows that he can, as healthy, constructed, beat a LeBron-led team.
Let me see
Draymond is
what
Draymond until they come across LeBron, best buddy.
Yeah.
let me hear what I want to hear what Charlie has to
Yeah.
say on that.
That's the
So
elephant.
wait,
appreciate the
let
rings,
me
LeBron.
hear
Though
what you have to say on in terms of how ready we are from a vocalization and also connectivity standpoint. Like that was one thing that I noticed last year. Steve threw that word around a lot. Like we're not connected, and that was not really on the offensive end as much as the defensive end. So like going into next year, do you think Draymond's voice is going to be to the point where we're more connected? You think?
Can I answer?
yeah,
Oh,
he's.
my bad.
I think like us losing was like the best thing like literally that could happen. Like I think they're so locked in now. Like they know what not to do now. Like to the fullest not to do. That anything like they know locked in. Obviously, like Clay dropped some gems on that podcast. Like they're already like working out now with Chris Paul and everything. So like I think it's gonna be a really good season.
So you think it's all resolved and they're going to go into next season with a fresh slate type of thing?
Yeah, easily. Yeah,
Yo,
100%.
Charlie, let me ask you this
So
question because
go ahead.
you mentioned the Clay thing. What was your biggest takeaway from that Clay interview? Like if you could take away one gem from it, what would be your biggest takeaway?
Um, it was kind of random. Like I think when he mentioned all the Chris Paul stuff, like I think, and obviously they talk about like the group chat and like already talking about working out and like training and having camps already. Like I know the Warriors probably don't do that until like a month or maybe a month and a half till the season. So the fact they're already doing it now just shows like the focus level, and I think that was really good to hear.
Yeah, man, good stuff, man. Because that Clay interview was really good, and with Clay, bro, Clay always gives good interviews. That's what I love about him. Like he shoots from the hip. You know what I'm saying?
So Charlie, let me ask you this. So someone just kind of implied that Draymond's guard is kind of let down when he's playing against LeBron, and I know, and that's just the elephant in the room. A lot of people feel that way, and I'm not asking you to speak for Draymond or anything, but what are your just like thoughts on that? Do you see that, or do you like think it's just like a narrative? Like how, like why, like just as a fan, like what do you think about those common things that the fans say just throw around? Do you think it's just like a stupid narrative, or what do you think?
I think it's funny. It's like, oh no, you can't beat the best player of all time. You must, you must suck. Like he doesn't like he doesn't be like, I'm sorry boys, I'm not going to try this game. LeBron's playing. Like this dude's trying to win a championship. Like to really just think about it. He's trying to make like he's trying to get a max contract. You think this guy's going to be like sacrifice a max contract because he's versing LeBron? Like the guy just didn't play well for a couple games. Like it happens against a good team. There's no like conspiracy. There's no like they've made an alliance and they're gonna join up. Like it's just so stupid. The
So
guy
Charlie,
actually
well,
had
hold
a
up,
lot of good games too. Like
Charlie.
so dumb.
Do you know the famous story about when Michael Jordan sent Charles Barkley earrings and all of that stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not that we think he threw the series, but we do think that the friendship took some edge off of the kind of stuff that Draymond does. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I thought that's what typically was the obvious.
Yeah,
Obviously,
like you
people
saw
thought
in the
the
first
conspiracy
round.
stuff. Just
You
watch the
saw
Yeah,
playing.
but
Just watch the playing game, especially the fourth quarter. We all talked about that floater. We all talked about that jumper. The whole main thing that we all praise Bron about, especially Draymond,
yeah.
he's levels above everyone, and he's not just talking about physically. He's talking about mentally. The fact that Dre hasn't even caught on to the fact that Bron said a whole long time ago, and you heard this when the Warriors are going crazy with KD, only way you can get him is internally. And lo and behold, look at what's unfolding. It's not.
like
We're not gonna. Draymond would never admit, "Hey, I'm throwing this game," or not that anyone
No,
even
no, no,
thought
no.
that.
I
It's
don't
just
think he's
more of
throwing
like,
the game, bro. But
you
I
see
do
how he
think
No,
competes.
I
Just
do
I
think
said,
there's an edge missing. You
I
know
said,
what I'm
I
saying?
said
And
you know it. You could. We
the
all can
phrase
say,
I used was he lets his guard down. That's what I said.
and
Now,
that's enough.
but Charlie just doesn't think that's the case. And
I
listen,
agree with you, Dre. I agree.
whether you agree with him or not is your choice. But I'm just telling you that's his
but
answer. So you don't
we
have to
just
like his
can't
answer.
we
Yeah.
can't hear like what they're saying. Like we only can watch it from afar. Like we don't know what they're saying. I've heard stuff that he said about like the city of Los Angeles. He said about AD like horrible stuff, and obviously we can't hear that. But I just think like if he did like one clothesline to one of these players, everyone'd be like, "Oh, okay, he's back." Like, "Oh, there's no worries." But like, he's not gonna do that. Like, obviously from the Sabonis series too, he got suspended for doing stuff like that. He's gonna obviously reel it in a bit. Like the
Yeah, but
guy,
there's a difference between clotheslining dudes and having an intensity one round in the first round of the playoffs versus the second round of the playoffs. He
it
doesn't have
was
to go out there and get flagrant
so
twos
Charlie, hold up. So
against the
Charlie,
Lakers.
you think that because that is like that's an angle that I didn't consider because he did get suspended in that first round. You know what I'm saying? And you know how it is with Draymond, bro. Like shit that other people wouldn't get suspended for, Draymond would get suspended for. So I didn't necessarily think about that angle, but I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I did not feel like the edge was there. It's not that I think he didn't want to win the series and all of that stuff. I didn't feel like the edge was there, bro. Like,
Urkel, can I chime in?
yeah, go ahead.
Draymond Green plays his best basketball when he plays people he hates or dislikes. Simple.
Do
I
you
also
agree
want
with that, Charlie?
hold on, wait. I
Just
want to do something.
that
I want to
yes,
make
because
that
did you
just
see in
points
2016
for
how he went
2016
after
he
LeBron?
hated
yeah, he does.
Tristan. Listen to me. He hated Tristan, and with that he hated Bron at that time. He didn't hate him as a player, but he despised the city of Cleveland and the entire Cavs. The arrogance that they are coming, bro. I was there. I went to every single game. I was in the locker room. I was thing like so. At the end of the day, I'm just telling you that, and that goes with all players. You see when Steph goes at players, that he likes, and then he has admiration, or there's a camaraderie between guys. Like there's guys that Steph just doesn't fuck with, and he's gonna give him a 50 piece or a 60 piece, and then
Wait,
there's guys like you saw, like perfect example when Damian Lillard said, "See, it's not that easy when three guys are coming around." Steph's looking at this guy with like 10 heads, like, bro, do you think I'm you? Bro, I got something for you. And he had animosity towards him, so he came out with that edge and did that. LeBron and him are friends, but Steph, there's guys that Steph doesn't go crazy on, and there's not like they're super great players, but Steph can go at people and whatnot. I think it's more from a standpoint that Draymond Green has to psych up himself to have like a disadvantage, or somebody said something to me,
Well said.
or you keep yapping
wait.
your mouth. Okay, I got something for you. That's how
Like,
it is. That's why even
I
in
wanted to
Houston
say
series, yeah.
I just
like,
want to say one quick thing, right? I don't want this is not like this. We're not trying to sandbag anybody. Like I don't want Charlie to feel like we should not be projecting our displeasure with Draymond. If you're displeased with Draymond, I don't think it's fair to do that and put it on Charlie and try to you know what I'm saying? Like we need to separate his own opinion with what your displeasure from Draymond is. Like I don't
Hey,
want
Andre.
people in the chat going at him. That's not fair to
like
him. That's not fair.
Yeah,
last
that's
Like
year,
not fair. I think there was just a
people have done that.
misunderstanding.
People have done that to me. It's not fair.
Right.
Charlie's opinion is his own. Draymond, if you're upset with Draymond, don't put that shit on Charlie because he didn't do anything wrong. He's just giving his opinion. If you don't agree with it, that's on you. But we're not here to sandbag anyone, okay? We're going to be
like,
respectful and kind. That's it.
Absolutely right. Yeah, I'll
oh,
cut that out. I think I
that's
think the brother who just nailed it on the head. Speaking from experience, there's one thing that brings me into the game, and that's a fierce competitiveness. And my opinion only is that if there was a way for Braun to still kind of manipulate the situation but not make it obvious, if there was a way, it would be just like that. Even if it's just being friends. Do I believe they're friends and they're genuine about it? Absolutely. But if it works to someone's advantage competitively, it's definitely going to be bronze based off of how I've
I
seen
think
it
it's the
so
other way around. I don't think that Draymond Green is letting his guard down. I think LeBron James is using the friend aspect, the brotherhood aspect, to take advantage of the Golden State Warriors in certain regards, and knows certain things. Just like when the locker room, when they were when they tied up the series, they're mentally
far.
weak.
Keep the
They're
enemies close,
mentally
they
weak.
say.
Like, bro, I know Braun personally, so I know he takes advantage of anybody, even guys that are when AD wasn't playing on his team, he would do it to AD. He would do it to multiple players. He used to do it to John Wall, and John Wall was a early clutch guy. Like, you understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's not because he went to clutch, and I think Draymond Green went to clutch just from the aspect of the family aspect of it, because this basketball game, the whole NBA, this brotherhood bullshit is not real, bro. It's not in real life. The shit's not real. These people don't like each other, the majority of them. So when he found an agency that was actually family, and they actually had a brotherhood, and they were actually tight, and they were
Oh, you're cutting out Shadow, I think.
making money outside of basketball and helping each other win and empower. It was more of a sorority over and anything. And I think Draymond Green got his edge back. So if it's the edge that you think you're missing, I think he got his edge back. Why? Because they lost and they got embarrassed. And Draymond Green hears the talk, hears the chatter, hears the doubters, reads the timeline, knows who's talking shit about them, and he got something for them.
Right.
That's it. And he's motivated, bro. I just saw the man like fucking a few days ago, bro. I already know what type of time he's on, bro. He's on demon time. Believe me, bro.
So just to be clear, Charlie, you don't think like just as a fan looking from the outside in, you don't think that there's it's even possible that maybe Draymond is a little bit plays a little bit differently when LeBron's on the court. Not that it's like I'm not trying to make it like that, but you know what I'm saying. Like there isn't. You don't think that he doesn't let his guard down even slightly. Like he's just the same person, same player.
I think like 6 years ago, like I think the list of he hated players was
can't
like
Oh,
hear
I
you.
think you're.
oh, what about now?
Are you, you're good now. Yeah. Perfect.
Um, like people mentioned like 2016, he hated all these players. Like he hated 98% of the league in 2016. But like as he's older now, like I think he only hates like probably like 4 people. I'm not gonna lie. So like, obviously talk about our Lakers series. The reason he really struggled in those games, I think, he just the foul trouble was ridiculous. He would get like 4 fouls in like the second quarter,
That's game three.
and
Game three,
and
he
all
had
the
like
games
he
he didn't
fouled
get
out.
fouled. I don't know, he had 20 in one game. He had a really good game on AD the second game. Like he had really good games in those, but it was just the
Right.
foul trouble. It was really obviously he can't be as aggressive then. He can't be himself. So I obviously it's not great. Like don't get me wrong. I don't like that he bloody goes mates with LeBron. Like, but it's none of my business really. At the end of the day, like I don't really care. But it's obviously not
Right.
great. Uh, yeah. I think that series it was a good story to run with. Like, obviously it's a good thing to run with. But I don't think it's because he's mates with LeBron that he didn't play well or didn't bring it. I just generally think he just fouled too much. Like that was it, and he couldn't bring
I
in
will
his
say
game.
this,
He's
right?
fouling too much.
No, you're right. That's a fair point because I remember in game 3, he had a ton of fouls like early, and he was in foul trouble, so we had to take him out, and that completely just threw us off. Rotations were weird, and guys were put in that weren't really normal rotation pieces. And then game 4, he locked AD up. He just completely shut him down. Draymond did his job in game 4. Clay didn't do his. So yeah, like I would agree. Like I think we had enough to win the series. Did we lose game 1 or did we lose game 4 because Draymond was buddy with LeBron? Like let's be honest here. I'm not saying he didn't play with
Yes.
his normal edge.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm not saying
Yes.
hold on. I'm not saying he didn't play with his normal edge. What I am saying is the result of that series because he was buddy with LeBron, or was it because we just didn't close them out, bro? Game 1, we should have won that game. Game 4, we should have won that game. So you cannot tell me that his competitive edge, if you believe he lost it, that's the reason we lost. I just don't believe that because we
I
The
had
think
man them's
two.
because
just mad
they
at
lost the series
Draymond, man.
because they
You
did
guys are
decided
just
not to
mad at
guard him.
Draymond, man.
No,
Because they didn't go back to
it's
the
not.
pick and
It's
roll.
we're
That's
not
why.
mad at the
You
Lakers
guys are
decided
mad at
not to guard
Draymond.
Draymond. They decided not to guard him.
That's
Okay, is Steph
They
There
made
it
is
it
is.
part of their
Going on.
game
is
plan
Steph
to not
buddy with
guard
LeBron?
him.
Is Steph buddy with LeBron?
No, he's not.
So,
Is
He
Steph
like he
buddy with the
said,
Lakers?
bro,
he's
last
good.
year,
Is Steph buddy with the Lakers?
No, you don't like the
no.
Lakers.
Then sometimes you're gonna have a bad game. Steph doesn't play excellent or great against the Lakers all the time.
It was a bad
In
series,
crypto,
not
in
just a bad
crypto,
game.
when in crypto arena, Steph doesn't play good. It has
Yeah,
nothing to do with that, bro. Like I
Shut
think
up.
is hold on, listen to me,
Okay.
bro. You guys are talking out of guesswork. I'm talking because I know Charlie's saying some shit, but Charlie's obviously not doesn't want to go out there and exploit certain shit. Listen to me, bro. Braun and Draymond are brothers now. Yes. They are on this, they have the same agency. Yes. The reason why he has such an affinity because when um when Rich Paul got Tristan Thompson that 5 years 82 million, Draymond Green used that offer sheet to go to Bob Myers and get his money. It wasn't his agent. And then he realized, he said, I took an idea from another agent and it got me more money and got me paid because I was a stellar defender and just Tristan Thompson got paid for being one of the only bigs in the league, the entire league, to be able to switch because basketball in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, it went to switching heavy. So if you couldn't switch as a big, you went home. By Mozgov, by Verja, by Festazili, all these bigs just disappeared out the league. So if you couldn't hit threes, you couldn't switch, you couldn't offensive rebound, or you couldn't play hella defense, you left the NBA. And literally 50% of the bigs in the league were extinct. It was a genocide. Uh, Steph mangled everybody and left. Draymond Green used that contract and went and then looked from the sideline and said, "Bro, the way these dudes are doing business and they're black people doing helping out another brother." Then he went and then they started formulating a relationship. People forget that summer Draymond and Tristan were scrapping in fucking Delilah, okay, like that. So they didn't like each other at that point. They had issues at that point. You understand what I'm saying? But Draymond, over the years, he matured, he got older. Does LeBron take advantage of their friendship? 1,000,000%. LeBron would take advantage,
there you
do
go.
that to his own kids if he was playing his kids. That's
There
just
you
the
go.
competitor in him. Should he be so buddy in the middle of the game, hugging him while he's on the side of the bench, calling him over and having conversations? No, those are bad optics. But he's
He
not
did that
throwing
last year,
things on
opening
purpose,
night.
bro. Like
Why did
he's not
Tristan get
I
doing
think
paid?
it's
it.
more than
Shadow,
just bad
Shadow. Why did
optics,
Tristan get
though.
paid?
It's we
Tristan
can
got
talk
paid
about
because
the
he
whole
was switching on
thing.
Steph and doing a damn
No,
good job.
We're talking about Dre
no,
for
because he won a
Shadow,
championship.
against the Lakers.
Shadow.
Dre
The guy
supposed
literally did
to
that
impact.
opening night versus the Lakers. He went up to LeBron and dabbed him up while he was on
That's
the bench.
just
And
that's just not that's
remember
Yo,
more than
last
I
optics.
know that. I just finished
That's
saying
more
that's
than
bad
optics.
optics. But is
It's
he
more.
throwing it on purpose? No, bro.
If
we
you're a
He's not
leader of the
doing that.
he
team, if you're
is.
a leader of a team, can you have bad optics like that
No, absolutely
and
not. That's
have
part of
players
being a
No,
leader.
respect you on your own team?
hell
Brother,
no. Do you see
brother.
what he did after the
Draymond
match?
Seriously,
Green
Shadow.
made
Seriously.
Draymond Green made some poor decisions this season. It was most apparent
Just this
this
season?
His
season.
career, his
No, this
career,
season
yeah.
was the most glaring and most and it was the most glaring. It was 100% the most glaring, obviously.
You know, can I make a quick comment? Just you guys' thoughts. A question, actually, just to put it out there, because I want to touch on Dre's last question as to like if we feel Dre's voice is going to be as much of an impact. The reason why I say so is because I think the play of CP3 and the on-court leadership of CP3 will naturally push Draymond to be the general on the defense end.
Yeah, excellent
And
point. I brought that point up all last week.
that right there, it'll bring Draymond right back to his habitat. And I can see him on that court with CP. I think that eliminates the whole dabbing up, because I don't think CP will straight up check him in front of everyone. He knows the
And and
optics,
and and
but
and,
he
and
would
you
do
know
so
what? And
with his
you know
presence.
what? To chime in, I remember one time CP3 had a teammate, and his teammate went up to another player, and CP3 pulled the teammate back. You
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah, that's
Do
CP.
you remember that?
But
The thing
CP's on that
thing
level of
about it is,
competing.
our goat would never. That's the difference. Our goat would never. So we're blaming Draymond. It's on Steph too. Why are
Yeah,
you letting him do that?
but part of what makes Steph
Nah,
is that
nah,
he's
bro.
passive. For example,
Steph, got,
he was
bro,
being
Steph.
interviewed at his golf tournament.
Stop it.
If
We're
you
not
don't
blaming
say
Steph for
nothing,
another
you're
bromance
enabling it.
Right,
action.
right, right.
If you
Stop it.
don't say stuff, you're
You can't
enabling it,
ask.
bro.
Look, but he's not his parent. That's the thing.
No, it's not
You
about
gotta.
being a parent. That's your
These are
job,
things you have to understand as a man. Draymond is doing
brother.
he's doing
Brother. It's
childish
not about.
things.
It's about understanding as a man. Sometimes people get far. Sometimes people lose focus in contract years, especially when you're not thinking about certain things, and there's a lot of things going on in your mind. And he had a lot of personal things going on in his
At,
life, and he was dealing with a lot at that particular time, and
at
he
that
just
age,
wasn't having it.
with that surrounding environment, you got to own up and you got to take your own accountability. You can't keep blaming anyone else or thinking that Steph should be a different type of leader.
Nah, but
Everyone
that's
knows who
Steph's
Steph
weakness.
is.
With all due respect, that's Steph's weakness. He doesn't open
No,
up his
he's
mouth for
not.
shit. Yes, it is, bro. That's the reason why we.
Wait.
You
I,
see
I don't
what
I
want to
happened
think
deter
last
I
year in
that.
think you're
Game
saying
7?
that, mate. I think you're
Hold
Stop
on, hold on,
saying
this,
hold
that
on.
man.
mainly
Stop
I
this
don't want to
fuckery, bro.
deter. I don't
Stop
want to
this
deter.
fuckery, bro.
Shadow, let's not put more blame on a guy than the guy who's committing the action. It's like, come on, bro. I
Brother,
think
what actions? I just
He
told you
punched
those
in.
are bad optics. I just told you those were bad optics, and that wasn't the right thing to do,
Yeah, I think
especially
Shadow is
last
right though. Y'all,
season after he should be walking on eggshells and pins and needles. He shouldn't be doing those things. You understand what I'm
y'all,
saying?
right.
y'all looking at
Everybody
this with
was
tunnel vision,
frustrated
bro.
about it. Loon
Yeah,
was frustrated.
he should
Wiggins
know
was
that without
frustrated.
Steph telling him.
Everybody
Steph
was
doesn't have to. Now, would it be great if Steph did it? Absolutely. It'd be the damn cement in the ground.
But that's
But we
not
can't expect that from Steph.
Steph
that's not
doesn't
his
run a fucking
personality.
daycare. He doesn't run a
brother.
daycare.
Like
Come
I
on.
said, there was a lot of things that's going on in.
I feel you
I
though.
get y'all
Steph
mad,
speaks
but y'all
once and
looking
it's
at this with
over.
tunnel vision right now, bro. For real,
Going
for
on
real.
between.
Dre's voice will come back. CP
Bro,
will
Okay,
help with
Can
you
y'all
guys
hear
can
that. Can y'all hear me?
bro, last
you
year
guys can
when
feel how you want to feel, bro. This is my personal opinion. Steph ain't perfect, dog. Players ain't perfect. Draymond ain't
Exactly.
perfect. Bron ain't perfect. There are things. Everybody has weaknesses in areas that they need to. Steph, after all these years, had to speak up in Game 7, damn near scream on everybody. Anybody who does not want to come to play, anybody just stay the fuck home. Don't get on this bus and go to the game. He spoke up, and there was change. You understand what I'm saying? It's a good thing to speak up, brother. It is a good thing.
He was talking to Draymond
Well, you
too.
saw. Yeah. Part of the
Words.
implications of speaking up is understanding that Draymond is a human boiling pot. When KD spoke up, he didn't even speak up. He clapped for the ball, and that was enough to be called a bitch. Some people just can't handle the truth, and that's part of what Steph understands. So his leadership will be a little passive, and he can grow on it. He's accepted that he
Yeah,
can grow
yeah,
on it.
and
He accepted
I'm
that he
not
can grow
saying
on it.
Steph did anything wrong. I just think that's an area of improvement. And watch and remember when I told you, this is a recorded conversation. You're gonna see a whole different Steph
Okay.
from a leader perspective next
Mm-hmm.
season. I
That
guarantee
We've seen
And
you
Steph.
that's
that.
We've
why
seen
Yeah,
Steph
because he
already.
knows the time
the
the time is
all
Guarantee
it
short.
is.
all this
Hold
talk
on.
you guys are talking. You watch how vocal Steph is next
Yeah,
season.
have we not
You
seen it
watch.
this offseason? We've seen it this offseason already. He's
You
been
That's
on
a
watch how
multiple
fact.
I've
vocal he
points.
is,
never
dog.
seen
Yep.
him on this type of media
I
tour
know
before,
this
Dre.
for a fact.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
a fact, though. That's a
And you
fact.
know what? There's one thing that we do know that Steph is going to do. He's going to do the leadership. He's going to go about everything the right way this year too. Like we know he's going to do that, right? So this vocal leadership, he said exactly what he needed to say before Game 7, and look what happened. He put a 50
Yeah.
piece and sent us to the next round.
Yeah,
So
brother. Like
I have my complete
bro.
trust
I'm
in
not
him.
blaming Steph, but what I'm saying is we only harp on one area or one situation, bro. Steve Kerr cooked the season. He was fucking terrible. He's the one. Anthony Lamb didn't beg Steve Kerr to fucking go in there and play 56 games. Ty Jerome didn't beg to go in there and play 50 games. These are G League players. The purpose of the G League and G League players are when players are injured, that's your last line of defense to have bodies so you could practice with. And in case you don't have enough bodies going on the road with 8 players and doing all
Yeah.
that stuff, you have a body to throw in there for a minute or two and
We know
steal
all that.
minutes.
We know all
These
that,
guys,
Shadow.
Anthony Lamb played
But
20 minutes a game this last season, bro.
I just want. Let's just. I want to just quickly get back on topic because this was.
I don't
This
This
believe
shit
shit
that.
went
was
I'm
left.
gonna
I'm
happen.
fine
It's
I
with
just
it's
know
the
this
Anthony
shit
topic.
Lamb
was
This
getting
gonna
shit
happen.
went
drafted.
left.
This
Bro,
ain't
the
the
guy,
topic. Shut the
he's
fuck up,
literally
man.
dick
That's
riding
not the.
Dre.
Dre, I'm gonna be honest
Bro,
with you, Dre.
relax.
Yeah.
I
It
think
ain't
the
no
people in the
relaxing, bro. It's
audience are riveted
ridiculous.
right now, bro.
Bro, we are doing a player fucking
Yo,
breakdown, not
Sam,
a
relax,
fucking
bro. Sam,
Draymond
relax,
character
relax.
No.
assassination.
E,
I'm
Christ.
happy.
Because it's a problem, bro. What are you talking about?
okay,
No.
Sam,
okay,
But
chill
we
out, chill
understand,
out,
Sam. We
chill out.
understand, bro.
I
Let's just
agree,
move
Sam.
on.
But
Yeah,
hold
it's a
on. No.
problem. We agree.
Yeah,
Urquan's
we
right.
all agree, but I think y'all gotta have television right now. Like,
You
people
So
guys
are
so
have
lost
look.
more
having
than these
season.
guys have more than
So here's
television. You
my
guys
thing,
are
right?
tripping,
Here's my
bro.
thing, right? We've
You
seen
guys
Bro,
are
Steph.
like,
blaming
people are
Draymond for
allowed
a
to have
bad.
Hey,
mistakes,
can we
bro.
give Charlie the last word on this? Because everyone's been talking. He hasn't been able to say his part.
What would the last word be? Like he kind of already said it 3-4 times what he thought.
No, just like if he has anything to say. But if not, then yeah, whatever, Dre.
Oh,
No, I think
Charlie,
Charlie's
do you
good,
have?
Dr. NBA. Stop trying to moderate this shit, bro. Stop.
Okay, yeah.
God damn,
All
bro.
right. Um. All right. Let's just. I'll just finish this up, and then we can expand on the conversation. But I don't want to keep people in here too long. All right. The last thing I mentioned was that at times Draymond takes plays off, right? So. Oh wait, Shadow, could you go on mute real quick, just because there's background. All right. So the last thing I noticed, that I pointed out, was that Draymond at times takes some plays off, whether it be just daring players to shoot or not taking, not being consistent in his coverages. We kind of saw that in the finals. He basically said on his pod, like, Derek White, Al Horford, these Marcus Smart, these guys are not going to shoot consistently like that over the course of the series, and he was right. But he did also cost us a game by daring them to shoot and taking certain plays off, which I felt like was avoidable. So I just see him at times do that, but also that's a result of him preserving his body, allowing himself for longevity, of course, because you can't every possession play as high intensity, really, really hard defense, because it takes a toll on you. So there's an understanding to that as well. And then the last thing I mentioned was that he lacks confidence at times, and Charlie kind of hit on this, where there's times that he's at the basket or trying to score the basketball, and his just mental hurdles, that confidence may just affect his finishing ability. And it also has resulted in him becoming a little bit more predictable, right? Throwing some telegraph passes, the defense being able to read him for the pass instead of the shot, even when he's open or given space, right? And so teams understand that he's going to, look for the pass before the shot. So it results in, like, turnovers and things like that. and there's times that he overplays within the flow of the motion offense overall. So he'll kind of lean into the motion stuff too much, and that results in, like I said, turnovers and predictability that hurts the team. But again, these weaknesses, while they're there, they're nothing that to me outweigh the strengths. And then the last thing I mentioned for the weakness slides, I said he does have some shot creation limitations, right, in the front court. He's not really a post up player, but he can be effective in the post against certain matchups, right?
Midgets.
Yeah, well, smaller players, guys that he can back down. He is 6'6", though, at the end of the day, so he doesn't have the ability to create separation off the dribble. His handle isn't just as shifty as other players, but that's just one limitation. And then also his finishing talent statistically was considered the sixth worst in the NBA, and that's mostly a result of his poor rim pressure. While he is actually a decent finisher by the percentages, just given his time on the court and the lack of slashing ability, just providing pressure at the basket, and a guy that kind of shies away from attacking the rim consistently, his finishing talent overall isn't really that good, and that's just something that we're gonna have to work around as time goes on. And then the last thing I mentioned, I said he lost his voice as a leader, and this is kind of a general bullet for what happened last year, right? Just somebody that, obviously the incident happened, and so he had to regain that trust, regain his teammates, trust to be vocal, to bring them together, and be connective on the defensive end. And so that kind of, like Charlie outlined, it kind of worked itself out over time, but it was never the same that it, at a championship level. So that's something that we're hoping that he really starts off strong with next year, is just being a leader, keeping that voice of his, and really putting guys in the right spot so we can be successful. And then the last thing... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Andre, really quick, before you get to your last thing, I just kind of want to keep it on the same note, and also like on a positive note, because you mentioned something that made me think about Draymond's one of his I think it's the best defensive play of all time, playoff. I don't even think it's Bron's block, but most people don't. Considering the difficulty, the timing, the speed, the angle of it, some of y'all remember it was against the Raptors, and he made this.
Wait, whoever's talking, the chat can't hear you, so you got to refresh. You got to drop down and come back up, because no one in the chat can hear you.
Wait,
my big. Go ahead,
the
Andre.
Raptors?
I'll go do that.
When
Yeah, it was against the Raptors. He had a
Siakam
takedown
dropped
block.
33 in game one.
Yeah, and after that, what
Actually,
happened?
34, and after that, he didn't fucking do shit again. I was at every single game. Sam, did you break up with your girl, man? You're just
No.
grumpy today, dog.
Yeah,
No,
bro, he's
'cause-
super grumpy. What is up with you
You're
today,
just fucking
Sam?
grumpy today, bro.
He
I've
just
never
doesn't
heard you
like
like this,
Draymond.
bro.
He doesn't like Draymond. That's why.
My favorite block at Draymond, since we're on this topic, is the one against Portland in the playoffs. That one was dope.
That was obvious.
That double.
You know which block was my favorite? The one in game two. Nah, the one in game 2, 2015.
Ooh, the one that went out of bounds that led to the push to Dove's over two free
And
throws.
I think it went through either Steph's or Andre's legs, bro. Like,
That's the Draymond that don't give a fuck who's coming to the rim. That's the Draymond that wants to block Bron. That's the Draymond that is, I don't want to say damn near disappeared. I'm hoping CP can pull that right back out.
he was another level of athlete back then, though. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like,
yeah, but he wanted it. He wanted it.
He was another level of athlete back then, bro. Like,
the reason
if you
why
look at him, if you look at his body in 16 compared to now, bro, like he looked like he was like a linebacker, bro. Like, that's how he looked. Like now he's lost weight and he's trying to be a little bit more nimble. But back then, bro, like you could just tell like there was definitely athletic difference
A little
between them.
pep to his step, yeah.
You guys remember that block he had against Portland? It was a 2-on-1 fast break, and the guy passed the ball. He was going up for a dunk. And
Damian Lillard to Noah Vonleh.
Oh, man.
Noah Vonleh was crushing. He was bodying people
and
the month before.
his reaction after that, that's like the Draymond that I miss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still the best defender in the league.
Dre, is it? Can we cover
Go
just
there.
one of the weaknesses before we get to expectations? I just wanted to cover
Go
one
right
really
ahead.
quick.
Go right ahead.
So, only thing I wanted to touch on here is his point of attack regression that we've seen. Right, we've seen him when he gets on switches. He's not necessarily as laterally quick. You can tell that he's compromised. And I actually had a question for Charlie on this. From the eye test, it seems like a lot of that regression is really due to his athleticism slowing down, but it seems to be much of that could be attributed to his disc injury and some of the discomfort that he's had. We know he's missed games, and we know how much that affects him. And anybody who's had an injury like that knows, how much that physically limits you. And I know you can't medically disclose for another person or another man, but just wanted to know if, from the conversations that you've had with him, how, has that improved? How much is he still dealing with that? And because it's something that lingers, just your outtake on that and how much that might be limiting him on the perimeter.
Yeah, funny. We actually talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Funny enough. It was more that he's got really bad hip problems. Like he was saying, in the 2018 finals, he was saying if we didn't sweep him, he couldn't play the rest of the series because his hip got that
Whoa,
bad.
did he tell you that? Did he tell you that?
Yeah,
Oh,
Damn.
if he didn't
I did
swim,
not
he
know
couldn't
that.
play the rest of the series
Wait, what
because
happened?
his hips were so bad he couldn't even walk by the end of game 4. So
Draymond?
yeah, if you
So
notice in the end of
Charlie,
game 4, he gets taken out in the fourth quarter or end
it's
of the
not
third.
just the disc then. He has the hip
No,
problems as well.
it's right hip as well. But he that's where he shot. If you notice, his shot would dip way more after 2018. It's because he's trying to compromise for his hips, and he's letting his shot go. Obviously that's where the memes and all that came from. But yeah, his hips are all gone. So
Yeah, they said he shot. Look, he has a backpack on. Something like that.
yeah. Which, if you look at his summer league and all that, early highlights, his shot was fine. He shot above his
Yeah.
head. But obviously, and he did his. If you remember that season, he would wear an undershirt, the 2018 season. He used to wear this undershirt thing. Is because obviously his disc in his shoulder. He
It helps
did
with
that as well.
compression.
Compression,
That's
yeah,
where
yeah.
that's where the shot kept getting lower and lower, and obviously the
Uh-huh.
confidence just absolutely went. So
So
yeah,
Charlie, let me ask you this question. In terms of that stuff, right? Because the shot, I knew there was a hip back thing going on back then. So has he done anything this summer based on what you've heard or that you can relay that he's done anything? Because bro, hip and back and knee and it's all connected, right? So has he been doing anything like yoga or anything like that, or Pilates or
I
anything like
I
that?
have no idea. I usually I talk to his trainer a fair bit, Travis Walton. He's the best. He usually just talks about on court stuff. I don't know what he does for his body and stuff. I have no clue. But I will say that last season, I think it was once every month, he would be like, "Yeah, I've done my knee, I've rolled my ankle, I've broken my finger."
Okay.
He damn near fractured his wrist, and he was still playing. But yeah, he would never use an excuse or take games off or anything. But you
Yeah.
would notice he'll come in some games with certain accessories on that he's trying to
Yeah.
compromise these injuries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously when we start winning, hopefully next year, a lot of games, he obviously doesn't have to play these games. But last
Mhm.
season, he had to play every game,
Right.
obviously. But yeah, there's a lot of injuries throughout the season that just gets just brushed off, and he tries to play through it. And obviously, you don't want it to lead to anything major. But yeah, he's pretty much always injured nowadays, but you just never notice.
And Charlie,
So,
thanks for these insights, because these are the types of things that, when we're watching, we see that, if we're funneling more point of attack guys into it, we try to
How did he
try to
hear this
protect him,
hits?
keep away from switches and things like that as much as possible, to be able to at least, I don't know, have him, be as durable as possible, and so he's healthy going into the postseason. So appreciate your
Yeah.
context.
so Charlie, let me ask you this: Is there any? Did he mention ever Because that was a really I did not know that after Game 4, basically he was immobilized, his
Yeah.
hips. So in the finals, is there any other just every year there's just so much tax on his body? Is that a common occurrence or?
It's I won't lie. I've got an answer, and it's probably not the truth, but I reckon it is. I just think at this age he can't play this many minutes as center. He can't. It's only so I can do it for I guess playoffs will be fine, but playing these regular season games at center, I think it just wears too much on a 6'6"
Uh-huh.
33-year-old's
Yeah,
body.
Charlie, have you do you FaceTime Dre all the time? What's up?
No.
God.
He just
Yo,
So
Chad,
Charlie,
stop it,
that's
bro.
look, we appreciate that because when we're during the season, if we're seeing fewer small ball lineups and we go much more small ball in the postseason, you don't
Damn,
see as
bro.
many 3 guard lineups with CP. Those are the types of things that help contextualize why that might be the case because Draymond's trying to limit his minutes at the 5. So appreciate you.
Yeah.
How did he hurt his
And
hips initially?
I think it was just wear and tear. I actually, I don't know, because I asked him a question and he's like, "Oh, that 2018 finals, I couldn't play after that game 4. Like, I couldn't even walk." So I don't know
Yeah,
how.
and then he re-injured it against the Utah game in the regular season in 2022 in December, and Draymond missed all that time. You forget about
Yeah,
that, Guzzle?
You said 2019 finals is when he
No,
couldn't play.
no. After that, 2022,
I
recently,
know. I'm asking about.
2022 against Utah, and then towards the end of the season, he left his back in Saginaw, Michigan, and in 2022, he was compromised with his back and his hip, but he still played through it. So
I'm saying,
obviously, those
do
are
we know
lingering
why he hurt
issues
his
as you
hips
get.
though?
Why his hip? He fell on his hip, bro.
He said wear and tear.
Podcast.
It's wear and tear. Guzzle, as a man, you know you're in your older age. Injuries don't go away. Like
No,
when
I know
you
why he
hurt,
hurt his hips, and he talked about it already.
Why?
Okay.
I don't know why you
Why?
guys are forgetting about this.
What
Because
did he
he got
say?
fat in 2019,
Oh my god.
and he
oh,
did the
chill,
bro. I
Peloton. No,
thought
chill, please.
he rode the
didn't he go on the
Peloton
Peloton
bike.
bike, bro?
He
Didn't he
did
go
the
on the Peloton
Peloton,
bike
Wait,
and
wait,
lose
wait,
all that
and
wait,
weight?
wait.
that
Let
is
me
what hurt his
ask.
hips. He talked
Let me
about
ask
that
him.
already.
Guzzle, he didn't break
Let's
the
ask him.
Guzzle. He didn't
Wait,
break the
I'm
Peloton bike.
trying to
You lost
eat,
your
bro.
mind, dog.
wait. Let's ask him.
Guzzle, you're
Urkel,
losing your
you know
mind,
that
Said
bro.
he
just
Wait,
as
broke the
wait.
well as I
Peloton
do,
bike.
Guzzle
and so
wilding right
he
now.
jacked his
Guzzle, what's wrong
because
with you, man?
his long ass legs are not made to work on a Peloton like that, and that's what messed him up.
Wait, Gus, hold
Oh
on. Let
my
me ask
God,
him.
Guzzle, you're so ridiculous.
Guzzle, aren't you like
Urkel, why are you
400
lying?
pounds
You know we
yourself?
talked about this already, bro.
Guzzle,
Hold
aren't you
on.
like
Hold on.
400 pounds yourself?
Let me hold on. I have two
Guzzle,
more
No.
people on
400 pounds.
stage.
Where are you? Come and cook,
I
Guzzle.
don't have a mute. I don't have a mute button. Let me just ask. Let's just keep this really simple. Charlie, has Draymond ever mentioned anything about like keeping his weight in check? Like I'm sure he has, right? To you, like maybe there's something about his weight. He comes into the season and he has to lose it or regain it, like going up and down. Is that like a thing that he's
He
had to
goes up
deal
and
with at
down more
all?
than Oprah. God dang.
Holy shit, Guzzle. Can you let Charlie
Guzzle!
talk, please?
Please,
Yeah, let Charlie answer.
stop making this a kangaroo court.
Yeah, stop.
I have no
Is that a
doubt.
shot at Australia?
The, the
Oh,
only
Guzzle, stop it. Jesus Christ.
the only questions I ask was just basketball stuff, like stuff that just interests me. All that stuff, I don't really. Obviously, I'll notice it with my eyes, but I don't ask him about it. No.
Okay. So he hasn't mentioned anything about like just going up and down in weight or like just that being a part of like his routine or anything, because like you kind of mentioned it earlier, like he doesn't mention much about his strength and conditioning, more so just about like kind of the kind of when you ask him questions, just expanding on those types of things, right?
Yeah, and obviously, like
Okay.
probably when you're younger, you can probably get away with getting fatter and then losing it, but as you get older, you can't even do that anymore. It's like your body won't do it.
Uh-huh.
You can't hear you. Sorry.
can't hear him.
No, I heard him. He said just yeah. All right, let me move on to expectations and
Can I
then
just add one small thing to what
oh
AK
yeah.
said as far as lack of finishing? I do think a big component of Draymond's decline in finishing has also been related to not having a vertical spacer. Kevon Looney's a lot of things, but he is not a vertical spacer. And I think just the way like Draymond, when you've seen him previously thrive rolling to the basket, right? It's his finishing has a lot of his contingent on being able to blend his layup into a lob. Now when that's taken away, it becomes a lot more obvious of what decision he makes at the rim, whether it's a dump off pass or if it's a finish. So I do think that is a pretty vital component as to why Draymond's finishing has decreased. And that's not to say that his actual finishing ability hasn't declined, because it has, but I do think it's exacerbated it.
100%. No, that's a good point. With Andrew Bogut, he had just more lanes and more openings because if the defense overhelped, he had a guy he could throw a lob pass to, and be a threat there. So that's a good point. All right, expectations. So the first thing I mentioned was just being a consistent starting player, starting role minutes at power forward, right? He'll be our starting four. He's been that for over a decade, so that'll continue. I expect him to be featured in the motion offense in terms of a playmaker and a screen setter, right? He's going to be making plays for others, finding guys off of curls and pin downs, the motion that we like to run, the sets and principles. We've seen him make these reads for years, and I expect that to continue. Obviously, as a screen setter, just putting his body on the line, setting screens for the guys, within that motion offense, so they can come off these actions and hit shots at a high clip. So he'll set screens, dribble handoffs, trying to find guys, find openings, trying to outsmart the defense, like through slipping screens or fake DHOs, so he can gain an advantage downhill and make other reads for that matter. And then the last thing I mentioned within that motion concept is his synergy with Steph, right? His chemistry with Steph is probably one of the best two-man synergy chemistry type of things that we've ever seen in NBA history. Just a two-man game in the pick and roll where you have one guy who can shoot the ball and you have another guy who was one of the best connective passers in those advantage situations, can make the right reads and finish at the basket as well. So his synergy with Steph is something that's going to continue. Oh, I think there's echo. His synergy with Steph, I expect to continue, and like I said, as within the motion principles, that's just going to be within the offense we like. And then I also mentioned that I expect him to be a pick and roll man, a guy that rolls to the rim, gets to the basket, playing next to CP3, right? CP is going to be a guy that's going to be in a lot of pick and roll actions as the ball handler. He's going to be somebody that uses Draymond as the roll man and tries to get him these easy advantages downhill. So I expect him to be a play finisher in those situations, be a connective passer, find guys in the open corners or dunker spot when he's playing next to CP. More pick and roll is what I would expect. And then, like I mentioned earlier, defensive anchor, his awareness, attention to detail, the positional discipline, sharp rotations, all that stuff is what makes him such a great defender and anchor our defense for all these years. So I expect that to continue as well, and even to a greater level than it was last year, right? He's going to be, communicating, having to be vocal out there, really pinpointing certain matchups and certain wrinkles within schemes and defensive, the outcomes that we need. So I think he'll kind of lock in early on and try to set the stage and set a tone defensively, and all of these things kind of go into it. And I also expect him to guard like bigger forwards, guys who may be a little bit more slower footed, kind of play that 3-4 spot, because while he isn't necessarily slow or less like completely unagile, he's still able to move his feet quite well against guys like Jaylen Brown, for example, or guys that may not be the quickest, but they have some frame to them, some size to them, so he can still stick with those perimeter players, or also even down low in the paint. But like kind of Charlie said, it wouldn't be ideal to play him at the center spot because that wear and tear and those miles on him have really taken a toll, and it just wouldn't be optimal in the regular season to have put that burden and responsibility on him. And then the last thing I mentioned, and this might be the most important one, is his responsibility as a leader, right? He needs to get back those leadership qualities, reestablish his role, and in particular take Jonathan Kuminga under his wing, right? He acknowledged in the Paul George podcast that basically, he never really got to know Kuminga on an intimate level, and he never really got to understand who he was, his story, and try to really be personable with him. So trying to get to know your teammates and really making that effort so you can be a better leader and understand them and understand their mindset and approach and mentality can really add to his leadership qualities, which are already pretty good. But again, they need to expand, right? He can't just go out there and direct guys to be in the right spots. He needs to really understand guys, who they are, try to connect with them so that it even helps off the court and then translates on the court as well. Does anybody have anything to add in terms of expectations or anything of that matter?
No.
All right.
I
Charlie.
expect him to be depoy candidate.
Oh, that's a good point. I do actually think he'll be a depoy candidate as well. I have him in that with that expectation too. Charlie, do you have any expectations that you want to add or expand upon in terms of Draymond next season?
I think you'll get the similar same stuff regular season at this point in his career. He's not gonna maybe average a couple more points, maybe not, but you're gonna get the similar stuff.
So
Sports team or defense, all that sort of stuff. But
someone said in the group chat, "Don't dick ride Bron as an expectation."
All right. Well,
Andre, I have a
yeah.
quick. What about kind of
Sam,
the thought
Yeah.
Sam,
of
whenever you speak, I
seeing
want you to
Draymond?
clear it through me. Okay?
What were you saying earlier? Someone was going to say something.
Yeah, I was thinking the thought of this season potentially seeing Draymond. I understand. I think Charlie mentioned earlier about his minutes being shaved off. What if an expectation is for him to kind of be prepared to get an Iguodala approach? Just because I feel like if you save his knees for April, May, June, kind of get him off the bench and truly allow Kuminga to get some authentic minutes, not leftover minutes, type stuff. Still Draymond getting his minutes within the rotation. I don't know. I just feel like I think it's going to be a turnaround for Draymond. I'm more excited than I was 30 minutes ago. But thanks to this little power chart you have here, you got to turn it into a PDF, Andre. I'm excited. I'm more optimistic.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. What was the last
Yeah.
thing that was said?
That last thing?
Yeah. What was the last thing?
Oh, I was just saying
Expectations.
overall, I'm a lot more optimistic than I was before this podcast. I think it's in Dre.
I can't
Someone
hear.
mentioned it. Demon time.
Is that Hobad?
Yeah, is it just cutting off?
Yeah, we
My
Yeah.
can't we
fault.
can't see you on stage.
I was thinking that's meant to be, man. My bad. I'll jump off real quick.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I kind of heard some of what you said. No, you're exactly right. Like, there might be a little bit of a transition we see with trying to get Kuminga more involved in the rotation, and you might see Draymond kind of sacrifice a little bit from that standpoint, and try to maybe not have to play so many minutes and log so many minutes at the 4-5, and maybe save him more for the playoffs and allow Kuminga to develop and thrive in that from that standpoint. Charlie, I was gonna ask, has Draymond mentioned anything about like taking young dudes under his wing and trying to like help, develop them in a sense, like try to, be a better leader in that from that standpoint?
I don't think personally, but I do think like he'll probably do a lot better job this year coming up, just understanding people more. He's learning people off the court, I think, more than anything, and that way he can lead on the court much better. I do think like last season he's gonna have to earn that back, but I think it will come. Obviously, winning cures all. So once they start winning, everything's flowing a lot better. It's a lot easier to get into that routine sort of thing.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%. All right. Last slide of the presentation, the long-awaited player projection for Draymond. So next season, I have him at around 31 minutes per game, around 8.5 points, 7 rebounds, a touch under 6 assists, about 6.6 assists. I have him at. And the only reason I have a slight drop off is because I think CP3 is just going to have a lot of those responsibilities on the ball, and he's going to just make plays and be a playmaker from that standpoint, making passes, and be a pick and roll ball handler. So I think that'll kind of be a balance between him and Dre, and so that'll kind of balance out. And then I have him at about 2.1 stocks per game, 1.2 steals, 0.9 blocks. So he's going to be, active defensively, and he's going to, I think while the production doesn't do Draymond justice in terms of reflecting his impact, I think, I didn't put it here, but I think he'll have a defensive player of the year caliber season. I think coming off of last season, the way it started, the way it ended, just the unevenness defensively and the lack of connectivity, I think we're going to start off this season on a mission. And I think, we've seen Draymond the last 2 years before last season, right? 21, 2022. He was Defensive Player of the Year caliber, right? He was Defensive Player of the Year caliber. So I think he can get right back to that because those 2 years he was within the top three. He was one of the candidates for that. So no doubt in my mind, like he can get back to that level and standard that he set. And then I have him at 52% shooting from the field, so around the same that he was last year. Maybe a little bit better, a little bit less, but around the same. I actually have his 3-point percentage being around 32. I think he'll just get really open looks. And that's, he's been working on his shot here and there over the years. It's been on and off, but teams are going to continue to leave him open. And I have a feeling this season we're just going to see him more locked in and more motivated to just, be an impactful player on a winning team. So I think his percentages will reflect that. And then free throw percentage, slightly down, whatever. It's around the same, high 60s, low 70s. Last season he shot 71%, so I have him around 69. Same difference. High 60s, low 70s. And then the plus minus, I have him at plus 319, which is an incredible impact metric. Last season he was actually at plus 346. The only reason I have him at a little bit less is because I expect him to play less back-to-backs, less games overall. I think we're going to rest him. I think we're going to rest and preserve Draymond a lot more. So I think his plus-minus per game is still going to be very high. I just think overall it'll be lower because we're going to manage him much better during the regular season. But does anybody have anything to add or change or any thoughts on the player projection or anything of that matter?
Is 319 the highest plus-minus so far?
It is right now, yeah. The highest plus-minus that I've listed is Draymond so far.
I agree too on that. I think if we need, sorry, I'm wording that bad. If we're gonna win the title, he's gonna have to come out with the right energy out the gate. And like you said, like in 2022, the reason why we got off to a great start was one of the reasons why is because Draymond was so locked in and he was playing at a decoy level from day one. So if we get that again from him this year, one, he'll be a positive, and two, I expect us to win the title. So a lot of this kind of does fall back on Trey.
Charlie, would you agree with these kind of projections, or do you think he'll average maybe more assists or more points, or a little bit like what are your thoughts on just what my thoughts kind of?
I think Chris Paul's going to actually resurgence him. And I don't like Chris Paul. He doesn't really like Chris Paul, but I think Chris Paul is going to make it so easy for him, and he's going to figure out like, wow, it's been this easy this whole time. That I think even his points per game might go up to even maybe 10, just off open. If long as Chris Paul's healthy and he's healthy, like that's what Chris Paul can do for you. So I think Chris Paul's going to make him a lot better, just spacing wise, where like unlocking new things he hasn't even understood yet. That even him at his high IQ and all that, but I think Chris Paul will make it so much easier for him.
As a defender, do you think he can get off to a good start and try to put himself in the defensive player of the year conversation even at age 33? You think?
Yeah, easily. It takes. I know it goes off whoever blocks the most shots these days, but I think overall, as long as we're winning a lot of games and like being top 1, top 2 seed, it easily can win it easily.
100% agree. I know we mentioned when we were talking earlier today, or I guess because you're in the next day. So when we were talking like 12 hours ago, you mentioned that you have some gems and some insights, some exclusives that you wanted to add. You already gave us a ton. Is there anything else on your mind that you had in mind that you wanted to share or provide the community?
Expect what I've heard. Expect a really good season, like a super locked in season. There's going to be all those minor hiccups and social like outbursts like you saw last year. You're not going to get that. What I've been told, he's been super locked in from obviously his trainer. He's told me, working on the shot, everything. So good things to come. Hopefully, just hopefully stays healthy. That's it. But good things to come.
Okay, gotcha, my man. So a positive outlook on this season overall. Hey, everybody, I want to give a hand to Charlie in the chat. Yo, show Charlie love. He dropped gems. He gave us some great insights. Some things, honestly, you probably gave me the most, because I put a lot of thought into all of these, but you might be the one person that gave me the most feedback in terms of like things I just didn't think of and just really rounding out the analysis. So I thank you for that. And everybody in the chat gives Charlie a lot of love because he woke up at 8 a.m. for this, first of all, and he's been on here for what, 3 hours, 4 hours. So that's a lot of love, man. He woke up at 8. I wouldn't wake up for 8 a.m. for me.
I was
Trust
already
me.
up, fella.
Yeah, so
I was already up.
he woke up. He was
Respect,
already up. He was already up.
Charlie.
Look at that.
Thank you, Charlie.
Respect,
Shout out
Charlie.
Charlie.
Appreciate you, Charlie.
Yeah.
Appreciate
So
you,
shout out
boys.
Charlie.
Charlie, not Charlie.
Shout out Charlie, my man. And yeah, man, he spent 3 hours with us. So show love in the chat, like I said. And Charlie, man, if you wanna ever like, you know the spaces, right? You've been in the spaces, so you ever wanna like hop in or whatever in the playbacks, feel free. And but we appreciate everything that you've added, all the insight, all the gems, and you really made this a much better experience. So thank you for that.
Shit, Charlie.
Appreciate it, boys.
Y'all want to
Yes,
hop
sir.
into my playback?
Yeah. We'll head
Yes,
to
sir.
Let's do
Urkel's,
a
but
post, a
Shit,
recap on this
shit.
playback.
hey, show love to Charlie in the chat, guys. Show love to Charlie in the
Please.
chat. Come on. I
Appreciate
need
Championship.
Great
to see him,
stuff,
man.
Charlie. I appreciate it, brother.